there's a need to control my emotions so that I don't come across in a way that I don't intend, but I definitely in reality feel that way. And I could, whenever it's appropriate, if and when, I can share more about that, or would be happy to.
We're going to get there later. What I do want to say is that today is day 3 of the Master's Personality Assessment Certification Training, and welcome our masters. And we are talking about the low C trait and how the compensator, Helen was just saying before the recording was on, is how it made more sense to her when she learned about the compensator, because she didn't feel like an explosive person, but she did see how her compensator's traits were managing her low C. And though she didn't feel explosive, she does feel like there comes a point where something's bothering her, where she will need to come out and say it. She can't hold it back. So a smaller level of an explosion, but an outburst, but a smaller one. And so that relates to the low C. I was also sharing about my friend who had trouble understanding the bullet point words of the low C and didn't relate. And he defended himself. My kids will tell you I never explode. I never explode, he said. But what he does is he puts up a very strong protection so that he doesn't explode. And this morning I was thinking about it, like, what's the difference between that and a compulsive C or a high C? And I think the difference between my friend who just guards himself so he can be composed, and someone like Oprah, who is very composed, very mentally under control, emotionally under control, but authentic. She's natural. She's not guarded. And and as you could see with these traits, with the whole personality assessment, we get to know them. The more we meet our clients, Jenny and I are still, this is a very profound assessment that it becomes clearer and clearer. And so it's not something like, it's not black and white. It's there. And I think it's very exciting because the more you do it, you learn about it. What I came up with the compulsive C in playing with this idea is that the compulsive C must, it's like the must, it's the top of the highs and the most of the lows with the C's. So it might be, what's it called? On kind of like a low C on steroids could be a compulsive C that combines the highest of the traits expanded and the lowest of the traits expanded. Whereas my friend who was not compulsive was not authentic in his poise, but it was still a guard. And from that way, it was a lower C because he wasn't actually composed, he was forcing it. That's what I'm trying to work with and what I've seen with the low C. And so as you look at your clients' charts, and if there are people that you know, perhaps we'll get more and more enlightened as we go with the low and the high and the compulsive C. Heather.
I have been thinking about the different ways to apply when someone doesn't resonate with a trait. And I think that part of the work that I would do with a client that can't relate to what's happening for them is like, let's imagine someone else is experiencing this. What may have happened for them, or just asking questions. So for that example, for Helen yesterday being like, I don't associate with that low C, be like, well, imagine if you did. What experiences in your life could have created that resonation with that trait? And then she might be able to identify like maybe feelings of lack of control or never being right. So why speak up, but holding it in, eventually she might explode. Like we could say, and then it's self-validating, where we feel more open to accepting the trait because it's not a choice or a weakness, it's a conditioning based on experiences. So I just feel like it's so powerful to say to somebody, and even just identifying the trait, to say what experiences have created this map for you, right? What experiences have, to help identify the limiting beliefs that exist. Very, very specifically to the experience. And I guess that's how timeline therapy could come into it. To say, like, once we identify it, then go back to the source. And yeah, so this part of it feels like it really connects with the work that I do.
Awesome.
Yeah, and making it, again, it's this building rapport and credibility where someone doesn't necessarily have to know if they trust me yet. It's an assessment, it's right. And then I get to validate everything about it. So yeah, that just feels really cool.
Beautiful. Brilliant. Thank you. Great
Sorry,
idea.
Heather, could you just repeat the question? Because I thought that was very well worded. Can you repeat it, please?
Was it about what may have happened? So there's a whole bunch of different ways to ask it, but to say, like, let's just say, no, I don't resonate with that trait. Okay, well, let's imagine that you did. Let's imagine that you totally can see that in yourself. What experiences did you have in life that would have potentially created that reality of that trait? So they can say, like, what would another one be? Like, I'm definitely also low C. And for me, it's because no one listened to me anyway. So I eventually stopped saying anything because everyone was going to say I was wrong, I wasn't telling the truth. But that's really hard after a while, and you can't help but flip out. So yes, I'm a low C. I wasn't being protected. Like, there's so much about childhood trauma that can come up that it's like, I don't want to be a low C. It doesn't feel good to identify as a low C. But when I think of it as the 4-year-old version of me, then I'm like, oh God, I am a low C. It makes total sense.
Yeah.
So we can receive it with so much more kindness. So yeah, the question is, if you did relate to it, think of the experiences in your life that would make it make sense.
And what happens, what Heather's describing is actually in NLP, what we talk about as disassociating. So what it means is, instead of being in the experience through your own eyes, looking at it through your own eyes and saying, I don't see it, it takes you out of yourself as an observer to look at it from an objective point of view. And that creates a bigger peripheral view to look at it with a wider lens.
Can I share the way that I describe it too? It's a little different, just because sometimes people hear dissociation, they associate that with like mental or emotional imbalance.
It's important to hear these because in NLP, and I want to just clarify, associated and dissociated are going to be terms that you're going to be using, and they're going to be methods that we are constantly in this intervention. You want to make sure your client's associated. In this intervention, you want to make sure the client is dissociated. So it is not related to the therapeutic term of that you were mentioning. But yeah, go ahead and share how you relate it.
So a lot of times, again, all the work that I do is about subconscious beliefs, finding the very specific, the visceral experience of it. And so when we use this of imagine if you did, or imagine you are witnessing someone else that's a low C, what do you think happened to them in their life that created that experience for them? And so by doing that, the subconscious mind isn't knowing that you're going to be changing anything within you. It's just kind of like, what was happening there? And it's a little more open to explore because it's not panicking that you're going to make any changes now because it's outside of you. So that's the way, to me, it's like manipulating the subconscious mind so it calms down and doesn't stay on such alert. Hope that makes sense.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else, any takeaways from yesterday or questions from yesterday? Okay, so we're going to move on. We as coaches, in this case, we call evaluators or practitioners, whatever you call yourself, there is a presence that we have with our client. And the presence alone is extremely powerful. There are many, many even certified coaches who go straight into a coaching session with that thinking mind and have an inner roommate that's like, okay, what should I do next? What did they just say? Am I remembering what they just said? Am I doing the technique well enough? Let me listen. And, really taking them into thinking about how they're doing, what they should do. And the other day, when we did inquiries, you started to have an experience of just being present and holding a space. And so for masters, we hold an amazing space. And so we are going to start with a breakout room exercise in pairs. Let me just see how many people we have. So we're going to do a breakout room exercise in pairs. And I'm trying to think. So Jenny, let me know if you can pair up with this one. So what you are going to do is you're going to be obviously decide who's going to be the practitioner and who is going to be the client. And what you're going to do is in the room as the coach, you're going to have your eyes closed. And your task is to be present with your client without the thoughts going off here and taking you away, but be present with the client with eyes closed. So it's considered a session. This is a session. The eyes are closed and there are no words. And you are present with your client and holding that space and experiencing holding that space, what that's like. As the client, you're going to sit in the field and be the client with your eyes closed and experience what it's like in the presence of the coach without seeing them, without hearing a word. So as the client, you allow yourself to be the client and also experience what it's like to be in the presence of your coach and what happens. And once again, as coach, this is a session and it is not about thinking, it's about creating that present without eyes, without words. So when you get in the room, the first thing that you do is decide who's going to be coach, who's going to be client, and then you'll switch. It's going to be 15 minutes each, and we will send out a message to tell you when to switch. Actually, we can't do that because your eyes are going to be closed. So the client has to set up something on their phone that, one of you has to have it on your phone that you get an alarm that tells you it's 15 minutes and to switch. Go ahead, Helen.
2 questions. One, would it work just as well if we turn off our cameras?
No.
Okay. Second, do we go for 15 minutes without saying anything?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
And, Patrick was suggesting that we do it for 40 minutes, 40 minutes each, but I decided to shorten it. So that's for the masters, that's the trainers. The trainers do that. But it's a good exercise. Suzanne.
And maybe you're going to get to this question. So the coach does nothing, which is great. Not the coach, but the
Client.
What are they doing?
The client is there having a session.
So do they just is there a question to start this process?
None.
So the client is there, but they're having a session. So are they, what does that mean? Maybe I need clarity on what that session means or looks like.
Good. Trust your unconscious mind. And the coach does more than nothing.
No, I understand. You're present. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more about, I'm just trying to understand that the client's just going to start talking if they want to or not, whatever they want to
No
do.
words.
Okay.
No words.
So the client's not going to have any words either.
No.
Okay, that's what I needed clarity
Oh,
on.
okay. Got it.
Okay.
Yes.
So
So,
we're just
the
gonna be-
client comes in, chooses to be client, is there as client, as yourself, as if you were with coming into a coaching session, and the coach you begin, close your eyes, and no words, but do have an alarm set for 15 minutes so that you can switch. Heather.
It feels like like you're asking us to run a marathon when we haven't sprinted yet. This is a big expectation because like to sit and meditate, there is a difference. I understand that, and it'll probably be fine once we do it. But in my like hypervigilance and overanalyzing, it's like, but what if that's really challenging? Then we might be discouraged. Like, I'm so glad that you didn't go with the 40 minutes. I can't even sit for 2 minutes of meditation.
Right. This isn't a meditation. You're there for a client.
Mm-hmm. Right. I do understand that it's different. Okay.
What if it did work? What if you could do it?
Well, we're doing it, so we don't have a choice. But I'm saying the level of assurance, right? That I like to do stuff in such baby steps that like, you're unstoppable, you can totally do it.
Right.
And it feels like this could be super challenging.
What if it isn't? Would that be okay? Is that an option that it might not be?
That would be fantastic. Yeah.
And so here is our first experience of with the coaching mindset. We have intention. We trust our unconscious mind. And so allow yourself in this event, if you start to get concerned that you can't do it, say, I'm just going to trust my unconscious mind. Okay, Jenny, do you have the room set up?
So just
you need to make me
Oh, thank you.
from a clarity standpoint, though, I'm cool. 50 minutes, fine. But you both go in and you both close your eyes. Or
Yeah.
You both are closing your eyes and you're
Mhm.
sitting in each other's space without seeing each other for 50 minutes in silence.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Trust your unconscious minds. We'll see you in a half an hour. Is everybody ready, set, go? So you were invited to go into the breakout rooms to experience just being present without having the eyes or the words, and still being a coach and holding that present for your client. How did it go? What was it like being the client? What was it like being a coach? What was your experience? Heather.
It was way easier being the client because I could think and do whatever I wanted as far as that. But I found it really interesting as the coach, the different layers that kind of happened. And it was neat to be able to differentiate them. So the first layer was, I call it judgment, even though it's not like harsh. It was like, I was paired with Margarita, and it was like imagining what she's like, what her life has been like. And I'm like, okay, it's that to me was judgment. Like, why did I need to think about that? And then I found myself asking her questions in my head of like, who have you been? Who do you want to be? What does that look like for you? And why are you inspired to be that? And I thought, like, if we're connected in any way, allowing that energy to get there. And then I felt like, okay, I'm in my head again. Can I stop? And then at that point, I kept getting distracted, but then coming back and getting distracted and coming back. But it was interesting to feel the difference in each of those kind of segments. So
Beautiful. Well done. Well done. And thanks for the reporting of the layers. Thank you. Suzanne and then Margarita.
Yeah, this is a great exercise. I've done this for a few minutes, and I've coached it for a few minutes. Doing it for 15 minutes, it went faster than I thought. But yes, definitely a difference between the coach and the practitioner, and I mean the practitioner and the coachee. And I found that I was really focused as the practitioner on giving energy. So it was like I saw the swirl of energy. And I actually didn't form questions or anything, which I'm surprised I didn't. But I just went and just kept throwing energy at the screen. That's all I did the entire, and I have birds chirping in the back. So it actually made that sort of easier. But I also enjoyed being the client, because it allowed me to sit in where my head's been for a while, but I also went deeper, almost some more unconscious, and just kind of sat with stuff and kind of enjoyed just being able to sit with it and not have to overthink it at this particular point. So I thought that was cool. But the best thing I thought about this exercise was a reminder of, particularly from my perspective, for people that are lower in composure, to allow us to, or allow me, I'll speak for me, allowed me to remember meditation is so important to me, and I don't do enough of it, I forget to do it, but that helps me with my composure. So I'm just dialoguing about my husband. I need to get back to my meditation. And this was a great reminder of how valuable that really is, to be present with somebody else. So thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. And thank you for what you said. What came to my mind as you were talking is that though this is a one-on-one experience, you can, in this experience, view it from the same point of view as if you were with a group. It's about presence. It's about our presence. So it matters not for any of us if it's one person or many. The presence that we have is what we're exploring, the impact without words, without gestures, without eyes, without that, and how that affects. So Margarita, Jenny, Helen, and then Ardith.
What I loved about it is, because I want to be a coach.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Can you, do I need to say any more?
no,
Could you go back and do it again?
yes, because I am a coach, and I took mindfulness with a doctor, and she's well known, and she teaches doctors and even patients with really severe pain. It's a mindfulness. So it's like a form of meditation. So when I was the client, it was like, okay, you need to empty all your thoughts out because you have to get ready and you have to be present for Heather as the coach. So for me, it's a thank you. It's a valuable tool, because when I get ready to do my sessions, I will also have to be present for the client and be composed and be prepared. So this is teaching me a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome. Jenny.
The sun's just decided to shine through the window. Yeah, so I was explaining to Suzanne, who I was partnered with, that initially I was a bit disorientated. I've just driven 6 hours in torrential rain and just sort of like got here, and I was the client to start off with. So that was really nice, because I was just able to to be there. And but there was lots that came up through that, because my phone rang, and then I got it, you know, like, and it made me realize how little time, you know, how often even when we're working on ourselves, our time is intruded on, and it's something that I have to prioritize, you know, to sort of like look after my boundaries and protect my well-being. So, and as a client, I just felt incredibly safe. You know, I could feel that Suzanne holding that space for me, and it felt I was able to allow myself to sort of, you know, just soften into being the client, and not getting caught up in too much stuff. And then when we changed over and I became the coach, you know, I didn't realize, but my posture changed straight away. I sat up and, you know, sort of like, you know, felt very open. And of course I did that whole thing of, well, Suzanne did such a good job and I had such a good experience, I need to do the same back for her, you know. And it's well, what do? Do I send some Reiki? Do I do some Ho'oponopono? Do I do this, you know? And then I realized that I just started working on myself. I was clearing what came up for me, so that I could hold the space and allow whatever was going on for my client to come into me in for me. So I know everybody does things differently, but for me to be able to hold space and to be present with a person, I have to you know, sort of like, you know, work on regulating my nervous system and keeping me in a space where I can just be completely open, and then, you know, they can, it's up to them then, isn't it, what they get from that session. So it was profound. Yeah.
Beautiful. And I knew you were driving to a hotel. I had no idea you were driving 6 hours. So Jenny is here with us after 6 hours of driving in the torrential rain. So yeah. So thank you.
Well, to me, it's worth being
Holding
here.
space for you.
I'm good now. I'm landed. Thank
Good.
you.
Helen and then Ardith.
Thank you for this exercise. Thank you, Tim, again. As a client, I actually had one of the most, I think, significant breakthroughs I've ever had in just 15 minutes. I told myself to trust that I would know where to go, and I went to an incident when I was 6 that I had never counted as probably the first time that this pattern started. And so, and my mother was with me, and I was able to be with her and understand her point of view, but also tell her what I needed from her that she didn't give me. And the whole, it was very cathartic, very moving, very empowering. And I knew I couldn't have done it without what Tim was giving me. You know, it was, I felt the permission, I felt the security, the safety, and I felt the trust, you know, like I knew I was trusting my unconscious, and I knew he was too. And I don't know what was going on in his mind, but I felt the result of it. And it was, I'm just blown away by what those 15 minutes have accomplished for me. And then, you know, flipping to be the coach for Tim, I had such an incredible experience. And of course, I'm very words, I'm language, I'm very much words. So my 15 minutes as coach were just statements of affirmation towards him, encouragement, you know, things like, you've got this, you know the truth, you know, things that I needed to hear for myself, I just put back. And that helped me to stay focused, to the extent that he experienced, it didn't know what he needed to experience, but I just kept not throwing, but just offering these sentences as I was speaking in my mind directly to Tim. And that helped me stay focused. And I thought both 15-minute sessions went by way faster than I thought they would.
Thank you. And Thank you for the share and for being open to experience the opportunity and sharing that with us. This is an experiment about presence as a coach. And so thank you. And congratulations to both of you. To all of us, really. Ardith and then Heather.
I had no idea that sitting and being present with the client could be a session. So that was an immediate eye-opener for me, because basically in my life experience, I've been being trained to listen to other people and to hold space for them, and didn't know it. Because that's basically what I've done. Not similar to this exercise, but in the sense that I've been silent and not consciously holding the space intentionally, unintentionally holding the space for the people who are talking to me. So the difference between my life experience and this exercise was that as a practitioner, the client was not speaking to me. So that was a very different experience for me. And I found that initially when you said, well, you know, Patrick had wanted us to do 40 minutes, I thought, well, 40 minutes, we could do that. But then as we got close to the 15 minutes being finished, I was like, you know, this isn't as easy as I thought it would be based on my past experience, because it was a different experience. Actually consciously sitting there, holding the intention of holding the space for those 15 minutes. And it was my first experience having somebody actually hold that space for me for that time. So I didn't actually know what to do with it when I became a client. So I eventually, probably about the last 5 minutes, finally settled in and just sat in that safe space, focusing on where my body thought I needed that safe space. So that this has been, you know, definitely a valuable and eye-opening experience to do this as practitioner and also as a client. So thank you. And thank you, H.
You're welcome. Beautiful. Thank you. Heather and then Tim.
I just have a clarifying question. So based on the instructions, I thought like we were supposed to be empty, no thought, no intention as far as active intention. So hearing like Reiki, Ho'oponopono and affirmations, I thought that we were not supposed to be doing that. That's why I found the 15 minutes to be challenging. So I just wanted to clarify, was that appropriate within this exercise? And I'm sorry if I'm like kind of like calling anything out, but just for myself to understand better. I was trained in something called appreciation process, where there's no thought, nothing except just appreciating the being that existed. And so I was in that frame of mind, and that's why I felt like I was getting distracted. But is that okay to add that extra stuff into it?
You were correct. And in a minute, Jenny's going to explain what she did. I think Helen Moses mentioned sending out words. And later on, I was going to come back, but I will do it now. The intention of the exercise is presence without any thoughts, without any gestures. So in that space that Heather was describing, although not even send, is just being present without words, intentions. And Jenny, if you want to explain what you were sharing, that can help Heather understand what you were referring to.
Yeah,
and
so
we'll do Tim, and then we'll do H, and then we'll take a break.
So I have a lot going on in my mind, and you know, I find it hard to, you know, there's always chatter and all of that noise going on. And as I went into the exercise, there was that initial part of, oh, I need to do more, I need to do something. And that's what I was saying. It it was tempting. It felt like I wanted to send something and do something more, because just to be there didn't feel like it was enough. So then that's when I worked on myself, you know, as in I released those thoughts and feelings for myself, so that then I could clear the space and allow whatever Suzanne needed to appear. So I wasn't sending anything, I was actually directing the work on myself to clear that space, so that I could hold that space.
Thank you. Okay, thanks a lot, Jenny, for clarifying that. And great question, Heather. And then Tim and H, and then we're going to go for a break.
So my experience, and I kind of started off as the practitioner, and I think I could kind of resonate some of what Heather was saying, of asking questions, thinking about, you know, what would be the necessity, just coming up with about 1,000 questions, all in a matter of about a minute. And at that particular time, you know, I sort of fell back into that idea, but wait a minute, am I supposed to really do that? So I was kind of going back and forth, you know, internally of, well, how do I really help Helen? You know, if, you know, being that practitioner, and where do I go with that line of questioning? But then I realized, well, I need to do more listening. So then I kind of calmed it back down. So it was really a interesting development of how do you actually reach out without words. But then as the client, I think that I initially started off with, well, where do I go? So I just kind of had a moment.
Uh-oh, he's having a moment. You're frozen, Tim. If you can hear my voice, you're frozen. And we're just knowing that it's going to work out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to H in case you need to shut down and come back in. So H, go ahead. And Tim, we know that this is all going to work out and your internet's going to be working. You're coming back.
I was recipient, first time client. I was aware of being held. And I had a real feeling of peace and oneness, which was lovely. When it was my turn to a practitioner, because my body is physically tired, it decided it wanted to have a good few fidgets and twitches. I thought, okay, you can do what you want, body. My intention is to hold space for Ardith, and may she receive from this what she needs to receive. That's it.
Brilliant. Thank you. And I think Tim is here. Let's give a second for him to show up. Connecting to audio. And welcome back. We got part of it, but not all of it. So we're back here for you. But we can't hear you. No audio right now. I think he's putting something in the chat. So while he's putting that in the chat, we'll wait for it to appear. But as he's typing it, what we're going to do when he's complete is we're going to go for a break. We're going to have a 10-minute break. and come back at 33 after. Oh, he's going to work on it. Okay. That'll give you 10 minutes to fix your computer. We'll see you back at 33 after. You've got 15 minutes each. Helen Moses, I think you know what we're doing. I mean, Helen Jane, you know what we're doing. Okay. On your mark, get set, go. I didn't know if you want to go in there and be a third person, but it's
No.
not necessary.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you got a half hour now. How did it go? Who'd like to share? Let's have 2 or 3 shares.
I'll share.
Okay, Helen.
I find that a very interesting exercise from the point of view that as a client, I feel like I go very much more inward. As a practitioner, I feel like my energy is far more outward. I'm far more alert as a practitioner, whereas when I'm the client, sometimes I can not completely drift away, but I'm not quite as alert, and you know, my attention isn't quite as attuned. So it was a lovely exercise with Suzanne. I've had a busy day at work, and being the client first really brought me back to me. So
Oh, nice.
really lovely. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Good. H and Heather.
I was client first, which was a delightful experience. And as a practitioner, it was really interesting because I didn't sense artists as separate in many ways, but as just another particle, for want of a better word, because I don't have the words for it, of infinity. And I could almost sense the other groups.
Wow. Thank you. Excellent. Heather.
Like Helen mentioned from the last round, like that was really pretty profound. When I was the client, I like processed some stuff from a couple years ago with my partner's son, who's now like 11, I think. And it was just imagining what it was like for, I'm going to get emotional. Imagining what it was like for him. Because I had a really unhealthy relationship. It was tumultuous. I like reverted into like a need of a child that I was in competition with the kids to get attention. So I resented them. And he's such a sweet, highly sensitive, empathic boy. And I often think about the impact we had on him. And then it made me think of humans and the dynamic of relationships just as Russian dolls of like, this is exactly what my parents experienced. They totally effed us up because they were just kids who didn't have their needs met, whose parents were just kids who didn't have their needs met. And so in that, it allowed me to forgive myself a little bit and explore what would the conversation look like the next time I go to visit, because we're still together. I just live in Florida and he's in Pennsylvania. So I still see the kids, well, his son. And so, yeah, I'm just curious what that conversation could look like and how much impact would that be of untangling the mess that we created for him. So it was pretty significant. And it all started with talking about my cat, because I thought about, I have 3 here and 3 in Pennsylvania. So the rabbit hole of what happens. But yeah, it was interesting.
Interesting. And just as and thank you for that. And I really appreciate your compassion and empathy. On a side note for the group, that's an example of somebody who's on the G trait at a low level in this one experience. I'm not saying that's who Heather is. When she was in the present time problem, She was at the low G, feeling introverted and feeling critical and fragile in the face of competing for attention. And in this experience, the G trait went up, where she was seeing outward, was able to see, be resilient about it, see what was happening in the whole environment. It also showed a higher H trait, where she was able to see the reality of it and look at it in an understanding, not a lower level of the H, would be in a critical, it should be like this and it's not. So you're starting to see how even in one instant, somebody, the lever, I want you to look at it as the levels of a trait. There's levels of a trait. And that was a good example of the different levels. So thank you for that. Margarita.
When I was the client, I could already sense, because knowing Heather now, like she is so compassionate and she is so empathetic, but you could tell, and then her facial, like with her smile and really happy inside. When I was the coach and I sat there and we looked at each other, I was holding space for her. But as soon as I saw the emotions come, it's like, just smile, because that's all I have. I can't talk to her. Like, but I was just sending out to her, it's gonna be okay and we'll work it out together and you're not alone. That's all, like that's all within me. But I'm saying, like, but I just held her like that. But I couldn't, I felt like, oh no, what can I do?
Tell me a little bit more, Margarita. You felt like, oh no, tell me more.
I felt, oh no, now, like, if this happens like in a session, what am I going to do? So then it's like, okay, just be more grounded and just like relax yourself and just say, like, if I was coach, I would just say, it's gonna be all.
Can you go back
Oh,
few words, take those words back and say it again?
when I'm coach and this happens in a session with clients, because it's going to happen a lot, and that's why I'm trying to do trauma training also, is because when that happens, I have to just remove myself and let that person experience those emotions and not fix. See, so I come from a place that you want to fix instead of like heal.
Thank you.
So that made me aware of that.
Thank you so much for bringing this up. And this is a perfect loop. And this loop that you brought up is, I want to fix. What the beginning of the loop was when Tim mentioned, I noticed I had 1,000 questions. So for Helen, Jane, and Diane, we say hello to you. We know you're going to be watching this, and we know actually you're going to be joining us soon. So hello to you. So for Helen, Jane, and Diane, Tim said I had 1,000 questions the first time we did the breakout room session, where he sat there in the quiet with his eyes closed and without talking. And he was in the presence of his client, and immediately 1,000 questions came up in his mind. And this is the close of the loop with Margarita saying, uh-oh, what do I do? How do I fix this? Perfect example of a typical coach scenario. You're with your client, they say something, they do something, they shoot a look, they have a body language or nothing, and still your inner roommate says something to yourself, and suddenly you get fused with the identity because you're lost in the, uh-oh, what do I do? How do I fix this? How do I help? What should I do? You don't have to think about it because you just did it. hold space. I heard couple people at least, and maybe more, say when I was in the rooms, what I noticed is if I was just holding space, the other seems to be able to find what they need. Does that hold true? Does that sound, did you find that? If you found that, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't find that, don't. Okay, so about half of us. Helen Jane, when you're holding space, do you feel like you have to do something for the other to, or do you just the holding space and something happens for them?
I just feel that in the holding space, something happens for them.
Okay.
I don't feel that I really need to do anything other than hold the space. But my focus isn't on me then, it's on the client and holding the space.
My focus isn't on me then, my focus is on the client. From a neuroscience point of view, your brain can only do one thing at a time. It's like ping pong if you are multitasking. If you're doing one thing and then another, your brain, or it's like shifting a railroad track. Your brain is incapable of doing more than one thing at a time. So multitasking from a neuroscience point of view is extremely draining because your brain is going like this. And I know that the lovely thing about women is we're good at multitasking, but it actually is very, very draining because your brain is constantly having to go like this. If you are thinking about how do I fix this, you're not with your client. Which is why we say have intention, trust the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind has recorded everything you've learned here and in all the previous trainings you've ever taken, and I know you're all masters. So Margarita and anyone else who has yet to experience that, if I hold space experience, I'd like your task to be to explore that over the rest of this training, because it's natural for all of us. And though you're masters and you may become masters extraordinaire, your thinking mind is still going to go, oh no, what am I going to do? We in the Masters NLP, there were two practitioners that did a breakout session. They did a timeline therapy, and one of the clients went back really into, it was trauma held in a safe space, but she had memories that took her back generation of generation of generation of generation, seeing graves, mass graves, mass graves. And it took a really long time. And I happened to be supporting the two of them, just holding that intention, trusting the unconscious mind, holding the intention for her unconscious to reveal what needed to be revealed so that she could have the release, which she did. So Margarita, what I'd like to know is, would you consider that being a task that from now until the end of the training, that when your mind says, uh-oh, what do I do? How do I fix it? You go into that space of being present for the client and intending that the client that it's going to work, and then let go of the need to fix?
Yes, I will.
So can you write that down and post that somewhere so it's something that you remember? And then I invite anyone else or all of us to do that, because that is what happens to coaches. And the difference between the master coach, the masterful coach, and a coach practitioner is the one who, when that thinking mind, the doubting mind, the oh no, what if this doesn't work? What if I can't figure out how to help this person, which is normal. if that starts going off, is how to say, thank you for sharing, and then go back to being present with your client.
So
Okay.
Susanna, can I kind of speak on one point about that?
Mm-hmm.
So in my breakout room, it was difficult as a client not to want to speak. So I'll just kind of say that was, I sat and I was able to get through it. But, being a client, my first reaction was I wanted to talk about something. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a little bit of a task, but I got through it. But as the client, and
As
maybe
a coach,
this is,
do you mean?
I'm
As the
sorry, as
coach?
the coach. I'm sorry, as the coach. I'm made the point to say that I asked the question of how can I, in my mind, I didn't say it, but in my mind, I said, how can I help? And then offered that uncomfortable pause. So is that the same thing, or is that in reference to the initial being in the present, or is that kind of falling into the fixing scenario?
I think that's a really good question. I think the distinction is there's two distinctions. One is if Helen Moses was your actual coach, by the time you got to work together, she would know you, and she probably, knowing you with your fast mind, would not assign this as exercise unless there was a reason that related to the outcome that you wanted in the coaching. So, she would have determined that. And if you were somebody that was like, I need to slow down my, the outcome of coaching is to slow down my thinking mind and to observe my thoughts, then maybe she'd use this with you. The other thing is that if you had been Helen's coach, you already would have known what she wants from the outcome of the training, and you wouldn't have had to ask yourself that. You would have just gone right into the intention, holding the intention of what she wants as her outcome. Okay. Is that good? You got that? So, and we're going to go more into this as we get to the next steps. So now I'd like to talk to you. We are being. We have very much been in being. And in the being state, when we are with our client, people were talking about how their posture stands up. If the posture stands up, and it tends to mean, from a physical therapist point of view, the person has more solid foundation in who they are. And they're holding space. What trait is that? Solid foundation in who they are, holding space, knowing the objective that is in front of them. What trait is that?
Is that composure? No.
Holding space, focusing on the objective at hand,
Attention.
solid in who they are. It's the A trait, the attention trait. Good job. So in beingness, in the beingness are the A, the B, and the C. And we know the beingness is about identity. Being is about identity. So when somebody, we talked about a lever before. When somebody has a low level of A, B, and C, low beingness, what it means is that they are dispersed. We know that word, but what does that really mean? What does that really mean? When you see somebody very low on A, B, and C, what does that mean about beingness? Does anyone have, and you could have one or two people, if you had any idea when somebody is very low in their identity of attention and focus, of harmonic scale and composure, what would that mean? Margarita?
Low self-esteem.
Low self-esteem. Thank you. Love the face that goes with it. Who else? Good. Very good. What else? Okay. So, oh, go ahead, Helen.
I would say that scattered energy. So going from like one thing to another and probably nervousness around them.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. Heather, thank you very much. Good. Very good.
Would they have a tendency to need external approval or validation?
What do you think? Would you think they do?
I would think yes, and more because Margarita's saying insecure and you said yes. And I'm thinking like in order to be, they might need reassurance that they're on the right track. And
Excellent. You're right. You got it. Low beingness is someone that does, well, if we were to look in their history, if we were to ask them, when you were in the imprint stage, 0 to 7 years, you may not use those words, but when you were young, but for us, imprint stage, 0 to 7 years old, did you have people that did not validate the truth in what you perceived? So what you saw, did people not validate that? Because people with and we're talking very, 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 very low being, do not have a validation of the truth within themselves. Which is why a low A trait is someone who does not validate self. They don't see it in themselves. And so they're going to look to others for answers. Finding their knowing is the key for them. Because in their knowing, then they can validate and be themselves and find their own worth. But they did not get that. I mean, this is, they don't, at some point in their history, they did not get that validation in the imprint stage. And so it's hard for them to answer questions for themselves. They'll want to check with somebody else. If they're unsure of something, they'll email somebody else, they'll call somebody else, they'll Google something else, and coming back to find the answer within themselves is difficult, which is why you might see, now someone with low being does not mean like somebody so like, I wish I had a good example. So I think we had some, I'll find an example from some of the examples, like something, it's not like Charlie Brown, wishy-washy Charlie Brown. You won't know necessarily, you might have a hint from some people, but it's possible you won't know with others because of how they present themselves, because there is the social mask. But it's very possible that somebody with a low being in one group will have one mask, but when they get to the family group, they put on a different mask. And when they get to the church group or the temple group or the mosque group, they put on a different mask. And when they go to swing dancing, I don't know why that image just came up, they put on a different mask so that they fit in each place, rather than the high beingness, which is one person, it's the same person wherever they go. You got one and the same, they know who they are, they're secure. Again, that foundation, remember we talked about when people said, when I got into my coach body, I sat up straight like a mountain. When somebody knows who they are, they sit in who they are, they're okay with who they are, they're okay with themselves, warts and all. They don't shine back from where they're not good enough. And that's where the low being goes to, a feeling of not good enough. Often it may present in different words. Again, these are, everything you're hearing are still bullet points. You have to find how it presents in each person. But it is about identity with the low A, B, and C. Suzanne.
Just for clarity, so it was a back, and I probably won't be able to explain it because I was back with what you're saying, but
What if you could?
the A trait, you made point of the A trait. Everything you said makes complete sense to me. The A trait, though, when you're speaking, is do all three of those have to be low for what everything you said to be true? Or
Excellent point, and let me help you see it. So when you get a graph,
particularly, and one of the reasons I'm asking is,
please.
Well, for two reasons. A lot of what you said resonated with me, and yet my A trait is except composure is pretty good. But somebody else who's I'm working with had a low B and C, and yet a high A. So I'm just trying to confer if would be relevant to her or not.
That's a really good question. So I'm going to show you this, and it's not perfect because I'll tell you why in a second, but you'll forgive me for not being perfect. But I do want to show it to you. We don't have to be perfect. So this isn't perfect because I just added this bar right here. And so it really should be like 3 different bars, you know, and 3 different colors, but, you know, we're just going to assume that this person happens to have a minus 80A, a minus 80B, a minus 80C. So what I have just discussed is if you have anybody, if you get a graph and people's A, B, and C are very low, you know, within this range.
Okay.
And of course, just for clarity, I'm not saying that they're all the same level. It's just in this moment for this this slide usually looks like this, just so you see A, B, and C. So to answer your question, I'm putting in 1 box rather than 3. But if somebody has a very, very low beingness, because if we're looking at being, doing, having, and their weakest is the beingness, and it's very low, then we know that their identity, that they don't have a sense of their self in the world, and they're trying to find, it's like the book, what's it called? Is it not Where Is My Mother? The children's book.
Are You My Mother?
Are You My Mother? But instead of looking for mother, they're looking for themselves, and they're looking at it in different places, in different churches, in different trainings, in different books, in different movies, in different jobs. And that's why when Heather was saying they might jump from job to job to job, it's because they're just trying to find themselves. So somebody with a high A, that would be a little adapted. I will get there in a little bit, but I'm just going to stay with the focus of low beingness compared to high beingness, not compulsive, but high. Hi, Diane. Speaking of beingness, we welcome your being. We missed you. I hope your presentation went very well. We know it did. You rocked the house. High beingness is, I just love thinking of Oprah, but Ardith in the Telegram group. By the way, we do have a Telegram group. Jenny sent out the link. If you're not a part of it, contact Jenny and she'll send you the link to join the Telegram group. But Ardith yesterday mentioned Keanu Reeves, and she had mentioned him as a great example for high I. In some way, but he would be a great example of high beingness in my mind, because I have such respect for the man. But Keanu, you say Keanu, I believe everyone across the planet knows who we're talking about. And we know who he is. He's very vulnerable, which is why he has a strong B trait, because he has a very positive mindset, but he's vulnerable. He's very poised. So he represents somebody with a high beingness. Does everybody see that? Thumbs up if you do. So a high beingness, and again, remember, this is just, for this, only I did not have, I just adapted it for this moment. So this does not look like 3 traits, but pretend it is, and pretend they're on different levels, and that that it is, these aren't compulsive. But if you see 3 traits, 3 bars that are in the higher realms of the A, B, and C, then you have somebody who really owns themselves. They know who they are. They trust their knowing because they listen to their knowing. Steve Jobs, he didn't listen to others. He listened to his knowing. So this is the beingness. And where the identity, the stronger the being, the less the identity is fused with pictures from the past. And the more the identity is relieved of that and is more in knowing. Everybody get that? That is beingness. That is beingness. So now when you see a lot of lows, you get a sense this person doesn't know who they are in the world. They don't have self-worth. Or they're looking, they may not know that. They may just be like looking to find themselves. And it could have something to do, you know, you could say when you were young, did you not have people in your environment that validated what you perceived as true? Could be the parent that's, get out of my way, you're not doing it right. Hurry out of my way, I got to do this. Or the siblings that like, that looks terrible. Here, you can't turn that in. Let me do it. Or the parent that does the homework for the child, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Is there an average score for ABC that below that score, you know they are low? For example, if the average is 80 or lower, you look at the scale of traits. So if you have 3 very lows, that's what we're talking, especially low. Okay. My therapist and I talk about self-validation as a priority all the time. No wonder I'm -100 for A and B and -92 in C. And so the task for somebody in a low A, B, and C is to, when they have that knee jerk to, did I do it right? Is this the right answer? Can you show me how to do that? Is to either give your client as a task when you notice that you're doing that, you would first say, notice. So the first step would be is notice how many times that when you don't know an answer, you reach out to get an answer from someone else instead of yourself. So you first have them notice it. And if they really want to be good, you'd have them write it down every time and have them take a log so they really get a sense of how many times they go outside themselves for answers. And then the second task after they recognize it is to start asking themselves, okay, how can I find the answer myself? Do I believe my opinion here, or do I have to get validation from somebody else? Can I validate myself as seeing my truth? So beingness is how much are they owning their essence and how much is a borrowed identity? How much do they occupy the space? How much do they own their space? Do they have the ability to have and own their space? Or are they operating on a false identity or false identities if there's many social masks? This is an example from high up. People are more self-determined. Oprah, Keanu Reeves, Martin Luther King. I have somebody in my picture of my mind and I can't think of her name. She'll come back to me soon. Maya
Mother
Angelou.
Teresa.
Huh?
I always put Martin Luther King Jr. and Mother Teresa together.
Mother Teresa, Maya Angelou. And then the lack of validation, the people, so they're self-determined, low at the very bottom are other determined. Please tell me, please validate me. Am I doing okay? You know, I do my work. Did I do okay? Did you like it? Please tell me, because your validation determines whether I'm okay. This is okay. We don't want to place judgment, even if it's ourself. It's just where we find ourselves in life right now. And it's learning, oh, my step is to notice how many times do I reach out for others for validation? And can I start by noticing how many times I do that? And then eventually, can I get to start taking ownership myself? Heather.
I have a question that goes back to earlier about the compensator point. So the only score that is mildly high ranking on mine is boldness. So I feel like that kind of makes sense of like, I'm constantly needing other stuff, but then I'm going to be bold about something. So that would be the compensator point.
Yeah, exactly. You got it.
It's like, oh, so I'm not actually bold in the positive way. It's like compensating, or is it, can that be positive even if it's a compensation?
What do you think?
I think I should figure it out myself and not have to get validated on that.
Good. And what would you think?
Well,
And yes, that's a really good answer. And we're going to take a minute to acknowledge that.
Mhm.
And for us, please share what you think, because that we will learn too.
I think that my first impression of, oh, great, that's not positive, is my need for validation because I'm not being and trusting myself. And then if I pause and think about it, well, if I am, say, weak in this one area, having a strength in the opposite would help to balance. So that's just survival. And that makes sense. And now maybe I can keep the bold high and work on the B as well. And maybe using the bold to leverage, right? To be like, hey, I'm bold and look how often this works for me. Maybe I should acknowledge that more often.
Perfect.
Cool. Thanks everybody for letting me.
And I shouldn't say perfect. That couldn't help that, but excellent. You got it. And thank you for going through that for all of us. It helps. So I have one more question and then I have a question for you guys. Go ahead, Suzanne.
Just on that validation piece too, I think it's pretty normal to ask for validation. And I just want to give you two examples of that. But I think what you're saying is the constant of validation, right? Because I interview people internationally and everybody asks me after an interview, how did I do? And then I found out, funny enough, Oprah Winfrey said the same thing, that after she's interviewed everyone, the first thing everyone does is, how did I do? So it's normal to want validation. It's just not trusting in yourself, right? You're always wanting it. That not normal. That's not a good word. Apologize for that. But it's human nature to want validation, but not wanting it all the time. I've got that right.
It's a really good distinction, and thank you for that. Yeah, really, thank you for that. So my question is, I feel like I'm on a roll. I could go on with doing this, but it's been a bit about an hour before a break. So I want you to find out, are you on a roll? You want to keep moving on to doing this, or do you need a break? Break, okay. And is 7 minutes enough for a break? Okay, great. We're going to take a 7-minute break. In the chat, I'm going to put a WeTransfer link where you're going to get a graph. And if you could download and print it and come back with it. Okay, we'll see you in 7 minutes. We'll make it, we covered what beingness is. And so then there's doingness. What are the traits of doingness? I got your smiley face. Thank you. Qu'est-ce que c'est doingness? With traits. If I knew French, I could say it French, but all I could say is qu'est-ce que c'est? Traits, doing. Tim says E, F, and G, activity, boldness, and responsibility. Faire les traits. Thank you, Helen. I got all the answers. I love it. That's right. E, F, and G are the doingness traits. And the doingness is our activity, our energy in the environment. And it's how causative in the environment are we, or how under effect are we in the environment. In other words, if we're causative, we're productive. Our activity and our energy. You okay, Suzanne? You okay? I saw you go. Are you having computer issues?
No, I'm taking notes beside. So I'm just
Eating.
Yeah.
So it's effective doingness. So it's the causativeness in the environment, the level of the activity, the level of the energy, as well as the effectiveness. So if it's effective, the person's at cause in their environment, which another way of saying that would be productive, effective, or not. They're at effect in their environment and they're not getting anything done. They're, So it's about producing energy, directing energy, and that the energy has or doesn't have an impact on the environment. And it's also about the quality of the energy. I mean, this is all the different ways of really saying the same thing. It's the quality of the energy, the quality in the environment of the energy or the activity. And of course, there's high or low. And once again, we're looking at this from an, aspect of doingness. So all three combined. And so in what you'll notice is so many people have high doingness. And what you want to see is is it effective, or are they doing a lot? They're putting out a lot of energy, but they're not really accomplishing anything. And so a high quality doingness, I think I remember from the manual, would be like the D at 70, the E at 70, the F at 70. That's productivity wise, that would be high quality. So we'll throw in the G for doingness, and that would be high quality productivity, ideally. When the doingness gets compulsive, which is very common in the West, you'll see it a lot in people. The doingness is like they have to get something done. I got to get it done. It's like, I got to get it done. You have to do. The people with the higher D's, compulsive D's, will have a hard time just being. Just being, okay. But can we do something now? So they have to get something done. And the thing about compulsive D's is that they're doing so much that eventually they're going to run their body to the ground, and eventually they'll get sick. or they already are sick. The compulsive D, the ongoing driving and driving and driving, eventually the body will say shut down, and in one way or form or another get sick. So they're either on the road to that, or this is a person who has multiple illnesses. Go ahead, Suzanne.
You're saying D, not E.
Sorry, D, pardon me. Thank you for correcting that. It's E, F, and G. High
That's what
doingness. Thank you
that's
for
right. That's what I
correcting
thought.
that. High doingness, E, F, and G. High doingness, E, F, and G. However, in productivity alone, away from doingness, in productivity, ideally, it's like D, E, D, E, and F at 70. But now we're talking about doingness. If somebody has compulsive doingness, which you often see just as E and F really high, that's the most common. If you have compulsive E and F, the person could be either sick or eventually they're going to get sick. And it also reminds me that a very low ABC, same thing, there could be a lot of struggles with health. Low beingness, same thing, could be a lot of struggles with health. And that's the most important thing for me about doing, is that because we see so many people who are compulsive EF, especially, not very often a compulsive G, but sometimes it's there. But if you see a compulsive EF, then you know there's a possibility this person's health they have issues with their health. Everybody got doing? Excellent. Yeah, D for doing. I think that's where I got mixed up. In the havingness, so many people, the low havingness. You know, and it's about the person's ability to have results. So it could be to have the house, to have the car, to have the job, to have the finances, to have the clients, to have love, to have kids, to have degrees, to have. And there's sort of two parts to that, because they may have, I'm just making this up right now, they may have the monk's mind. The monk that lifetimes ago made a vow of, what's it called? A vow of
Poverty.
Thank you, Margarita. A vow of poverty, you know, and so that somewhere in the person's essence is this feeling like I don't deserve. And it can be accented by it's not right to have, it's selfish, you know, somewhere in them, imprinted somewhere, not deserving. So if a person has a block, sorry, I'm checking on something, because the havingness is the one I understand the least. So I'm still, like I said, some of this is like getting to know it. And some of it may be, you know, our own personal blocks, you know. And so the havingness is the one, it's like I totally get identity, I totally get doing, and it's still, that one's a little less clear to me. So the person's havingness is the ability to have results. It's like relationships, having and maintaining relationships. What are the final results of the energy? Like they may be doing, but what are the final results of the energy they're pouring into the space? So if a person has a result in havingness and they want money, it could be non-existent. And so or a person can produce results, but they won't be stable. Like they just can't have them. They can't own it. We talked about in the beingness trait, not being able to own identity. In the havingness trait is having a block in owning, owning having value. Like, you know, some people, they can't own it in their inner being, but some like they can't have, like they just can't have, like they'll buy a car and then it'll get stolen. You know, they'll get the job and then the economy changes and the job falls apart. And it just is like, they just can't have. Give me one more second, Ardith, I'll be right with you. So it's the physical having, like some people have a block in physically having, as well as a block in the entitlement of having. Okay, go ahead, Ardith.
It's just with the having, if somebody is low, it's can be shown as they can't accept a compliment.
Oh, that's a great example.
Or if they've taken part in a project and somebody else claims all the work, but they were a part of it, they contributed. You know, they let somebody else say like, oh no, I just helped. You know, they don't share in that. So
those are great examples. It's also the person that will all right, what's it called? Transparency here. I've been thinking about this lately. When I was in 9th grade, so that was middle school, we call it now, before going into high school. It ended at 9th grade at that time. They had tryouts for cheerleaders, which I really wanted to be a cheerleader. I think that would have been so much fun. But I saw my friend Linda and I saw my friend Emily, and they really wanted it. Like it was their dream. And so I talked myself out of trying out because I felt bad if I took their spot. And that's not feeling entitled to have. At least in my mind, that is. So, I think there was one more thing I wanted to say. Oh, like for instance, if you know the boxer Mike Tyson and know his history, the guy made bucket loads of money and he lost it all, couldn't hold on to it. And so that's an example of somebody who didn't have, had a low havingness. What do we do about that? What do you do with a client that doesn't have ownership?
Susanna, just going back to what you were saying about Mike Tyson, they've done lots of research on people that win lots of money, huge amounts of money, and they nearly always all lose it, don't they? Because you know they haven't got that havingness. Yeah.
Jenny, that's a great example. Lottery winners. Perfect example. Thank you. So what do you do if somebody comes to you and they have low havingness? Anybody have any ideas? Heather.
There's so many things looking at, is it because they feel like they shouldn't surpass their parents? Is it because they don't feel worthy? Is it that they don't trust they can sustain it? Are they afraid of what people think of them? Will they get robbed? I mean, there's so much about like mindset for why don't they have. But yeah, I would just totally go to the beliefs that have been created based on experiences they had.
Good. Great. Anyone else? One thing that could be done is through an inquiry process. Point to something in the room that you can have. They point to something in the room. Okay, good. Thank you. Point to something else in the room that you can have. You can take ownership of it. Good. Thank you. And keep doing that until they get to a win. You want to get them to a point where they release the charge in the mental image pictures. So the inquiry one is just a start. And like Heather said, in working on beliefs, you'll get more help with that with tools in the breakthrough point protocol, as well as in NLP, working on limiting decisions and limiting beliefs. So another thing about being, doing, and having, I'm just going to pull up the slides. So with being, doing, and having, just so you know, get you guys out of the way so I can see what I'm doing. And Jenny, if I missed anything in the chat, please let me know. But the other thing to be aware of is, remember we talked about in the physical universe, there's matter, energy, space, and time. That the physical universe is made up of matter, energy, space, and time. Space, as you know, is the A, B, and C trait. Energy is the E, F, G, the doingness traits. Matter is the havingness trait. And time is the D trait. That's, again, we're going back to that ceiling of certainty, the amount of time that a decision will last. The higher the D, the longer the analytical ceiling, the ceiling of certainty for the D, the lower the D, the sooner the decision, the mind will be changed. Okay. So that's being, doing, and having. And so when you work on a graph, and you use those lines to divide the graph of the being, those 3 lines to divide up being, doing, and havingness and decide if it's a higher being or a lower having. You get more of a sense now of what it means when somebody has a strong being or a low being, a strong doing or a low doing, or a strong having and a low having. And so in the example, this is for Suzanne, where you said, I have somebody with really, really, really low B and C, but a high A. You know that in their mindset and in their composure, their beingness, their worth, their value of self is low, but in their focus and their space, that like they know who they are in terms of their attention, their goals, how they present themselves in their world, but their mindset and their composure is low. So in that way, the identity is low. So you adjust it based on the traits.
That's really helpful. Thank you. Because this person's an engineer too, and it was confusing to me, a manager and an engineer. And so that's helpful. Thank you.
So another thing I want to show is I keep talking about levels or levers. And so we want to think of the traits as you look at a graph, like you're looking at levers, you know, and so you're starting to see the difference. And Heather did a great example today where we saw that sliding up of the lever of the low G from when she was living with her, I think you were living with your beloved, and there were issues to now that you're still with him, but in two different environments, you're seeing it in a different perspective. So we saw that change of the levers of the G. And so as we see each of these traits go up and down, we see the different levels and are getting to know the tweaking of when they're here, what does it look like when they're here? And of course, it takes more and more getting to know different clients to get a sense of what each thing looks like. It's like a dance of the traits, how they work together, the lows and the highs and the tweaking. If it goes a little bit up and a little bit down, how does it change? Everybody with me? You with me, Diane? Okay, good. Okay. Just getting the right presentation up. So go back to here. This is really good for my brain. Just one thing after another. Good brain exercise. There we go. Okay. So yesterday we talked about 7 speedy steps to evaluate a graph. And so now if you have your graph in front of you, or if you, Heather, can, if you can kind of fake, oh, this isn't the color version. Let me get you the color version. Oh, it didn't print. My printer didn't print the color version, so this is what I got for the moment. But you also may have it on your device, but if you can just make a copy of that. So say you have a graph in front of you and you want to analyze it. Remember we talked about 7 speedy steps? Well, do I need to hold this for you, Heather? Okay, good. So then, step 1, potential immediate problems. Anyone remember and can call out, put in the chat or say out loud what we do for step 1, potential immediate problems?
Cheese.
Cheese. And that is, what does that stand for?
Low C and H could reveal a potential immediate problem.
That's right. Also called a present time problem.
Oh, present time problem. Okay.
Excellent. And there's one other. PSI, what does it stand for? Thank you, Ardith, who put it in the chat. And does anyone remember what PSI is?
It's potential suppression invalidation.
Excellent. And how do we know potential? How do we find it?
Heather has it in the chat.
Sorry, I can't see the chat. Oh, there we go. Now I see it. Okay, so possible suppression and validation, question 32 and 207. Also could see it with the low B and high E, but you also always want to check those two questions for strong yeses or medium yeses. But you could look at the graph and get an indicator if you forgot to check the questions. And then we've got the cheese, present time problem. I will never forget that now. I am so grateful. Oops, I was going to ask you, what's number 2? Who knows step number 2? And you guys could turn on your mics actually and just call it out. What's step number 2?
D trait. I actually, thank you for letting us turn off the mic. I tend to talk to myself a lot.
And so it's looking at the certainty trait. What are we looking at in the certainty trait?
If it's above or below 32.
Excellent. And what else? Somebody tell me what else could possibly be. Could it possibly be in that we look at for the D trait to know if somebody else has this thing? What else could it possibly
Compulsive
be?
D. Compulsive D.
That's right. Exactly. I want to ask you what step number 3. Oh, I know what step number 3 is. And I don't blame you if you don't remember, but anyone know what step number 3 is? Except that it is in your manual.
Being, doing,
We do have.
having.
That's right. So you put the 3 lines, the 3 vertical lines. So you distinguish being, doing, and having. And now you have a really good sense, especially if somebody is very high and very low, of what they need in being, doing, and having. Next is the harmonic scale overview. Who remembers what that is?
B trait.
It was something with +6.
Keep going.
32. So minus something +6, -19 +6, and then
Awesome.
+32.
Yep, you draw 3 horizontal lines. And that tells you if somebody is, the succumbing or at effect. If they're trying, they're at effect, but they're really trying to get out of effect and move to be at cause. If they are at cause, but it's not secure foundation of it, they're very at cause. But if some big wave comes along, they may fall down the scale. And then thriving. I think I said it to you this morning, either that or I was saying it myself to say to you, but I think I did say it. And since Diane and Helen are here now, though they'll get the recording, I'm going to say it again. It's very important to understand that, oh, maybe I did just say it to myself. We are programmed in human form to survive. We are programmed, our unconscious mind is programmed to survive. We know that because we have that fight or flight response. If something comes at us, we just either start running and we do it to survive, or we freeze it. In the reptilian world, the freezing, they shroud themselves, or the running, they have fast legs. We are programmed to survive. We are programmed to survive. And the unconscious mind is programmed. It's one of the prime directives of the unconscious mind to survive. And the higher up on the harmonic scale, the person has more of that life force to survive. So above +6, they are a survivor. And above 32, they're a solid survivor. They are totally at cause. Things can come, they're not going to let them get them down. In the United States, we have a state called Texas. Texas is known for billionaires, and sometimes there are billionaires that make $1 billion, lose $1 billion, make $1 billion, lose $1 billion. This is the billionaire that's okay if they lose it, they know they'll make it again. So that's that quality in the unconscious mind that to survive. The lower somebody is, the less of that life force, the thinner that life force, and that prime directive to survive is still there, but the lower and lower on this scale, there's more effort involved and there's less life force, which makes sense that if the beingness trait is very, very low, that somebody could be sick a lot, not as much life force. So I just think that that's something really important. It was very enlightening to me to understand that we as beings are programmed to survive. And yet you're seeing on this scale, this person's programming to survive that's in this scale has been reinforced. It's been validated. It's been patterned in them. And this person is a striver and a thriver. And we know that because there's 6 traits above positive 32. So what's next? I wonder if you know the 5th step.
I think it might be the breakthrough point.
Thank you. What did we know about the breakthrough point? What are 2 things we're looking for? And you're the perfect person, Helen Moses, to ask. What are 2 things we're looking for?
First of all, if D is less than 32, and if it is, it's the breakthrough point.
Excellent.
If D is above 32, then the breakthrough point is the lowest one on the scale.
Excellent. And I said, what are 2 things? And I was wrong. What are 3 things? And you named 2 of them. There's one more, and you're the perfect person to know the 3rd thing.
Well, the 3rd thing either is the compensator. Is that it? The compensator? That's the highest point on the scale, and that's the way we cope with our low trait.
Exactly. Just like you said, D is above 32, the lowest trait on the scale. It's the breakthrough point. There we go. Oops. Sorry, I went too fast. Let me go back if I can. So, and then you mark broke the BTP, the breakthrough point, and the compensator. And so there actually is one more, which is number 6. After the breakthrough point, if we check, is it a compulsive B? And how do we know, what do we do if it's a compulsive B?
Go to the H trait.
Or the H trait. Does every, oh, how come the B didn't show up? It used to be there. I swear there was like a little green, little purple. Oh, there we go. Okay. So does everybody remember the B and the H? And if anyone doesn't, feel free to let us know so we can make sure you remember this. Yeah, we always want to make sure that the mask is what we see of the person is where they are emotionally is accurate. And we tell it by, if there's a compulsive B, it's a mask. Oh, and what's next?
This is on the screen.
Yes, exactly. What is step number 7?
Scale of traits.
It's the scale of traits. Okay, so that's the 7 speedy steps. And let's put new groups together. You're going to get in pairs, though. I believe one group might be there might be 3 people in one group.
Yeah, I've done them.
Okay, great. Now, if I can get out of, when I get in PowerPoint, sometimes, okay, there we go. So you're going to be put in pairs or in one threesome. You're going to take your graphs. You have 5 minutes as a pair to do the 7 steps and tell each other what you've learned about this person. So you have your graph, and I'm sorry, this is black and white. Take your graph, take your ruler, take a pen, and okay, just in case you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable and you want to make sure that you are doing it all right, you could be reminded about the 7 steps in the workbook, in the manual, but you can also turn to page 30 and there's a 7-step worksheet. So you could use go to page 30, use the 7-step worksheet to remind you of steps 1 through 7. And for today, don't fill out the worksheet unless you have extra time. Fill out the graph. We want to see a completely filled out graph. Any questions? Good. On your mark, and you've got 5 minutes. And I see on your mark, get set, have fun. I'm going to turn off the recording. Welcome back. How did it go? How'd you do? What you learn? Let's have 2 or 3 responses.
Not long enough, that's for sure.
Yeah, we were pretty much finished. We were just discussing the compensation trait.
Yeah.
You were pretty much finished?
Yeah.
So what did, Ardith, who were you with?
I was with Suzanne and H.
Suzanne, H, and Ardith, what did you learn about this person? Tell us.
We learned that they were compensating for their lack of stability in their being.
Where
And
was the compensation?
The compensation was their certainty trait, D.
Excellent. And what are they compensating for?
For their low A, their low stability.
And so what trait is that then? What do we
That's
call
A.
that? I didn't hear you.
That's the stability, low A.
And so what is the low A? I mean, you said that the D
Breakthrough
was the
point?
compensator. Yes, the low
Breakthrough-
A
oh, is that what you're looking for? Okay, the breakthrough point,
Good
yeah.
job. Okay, so we've got a low A is the breakthrough point and their compensator is the D. What else did you learn?
Well, we had the question of the compensation point being, is it the trait that is the highest number on the graph, or if it's actually the highest on the scale of traits?
It's the visual highest. We're just doing an overview.
Right.
Good question.
So
Really good question.
that's what we went with, but that question did come up for us.
And there's no compulsions?
Excellent. No compulsions. What else did you learn?
They were stronger in the doing and their weak bit is the being.
They're strong in doing. They're a doer, but they have weak beingness. Great. What else did you learn?
Is this for anybody or still that same group?
Let's give that same group a chance. And you can call out to a friend if you'd like, because there's somebody that offered help.
Well, there's 6 lower than there's 6 that are lower than 0, which means something. Team.
There are 5 above -19. So we've got a survivor.
Yep. And they're putting in effort, you know. They're trying.
Is it more that they're more at effect, like isn't it 6 between 6 and 32 that they're surviving, 32 and plus they're thriving? Minus 19, less life, like they're more at effect than at cause.
How many are above minus 19?
5.
How many are below minus 19?
5.
5.
So interesting person.
Mhm.
So they're sort of, they're both.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're-
I was factoring that the majority of those 5 under 19 were actually, never mind, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go
I'm
ahead.
forgetting now.
Okay.
I think it was 5 that were under +6, but a bunch of them were under +19 or minus 19. So I was taking that as like leveraging towards that way a little bit more. So does that make sense to do it that way?
I mean, I would say since there's 5 above 19 and 5 below 19, that's an even mix. So I would say that they might, and you, in talking to your client, you'll find out. You're not going to tell them, but in talking to your client, you'll see which way they lean. The fact that it's a high certainty trait would tell me, I mean, you know what you could say? Here's how you could say it. There are 7 that are under 0. There are 7 under -6. So so I would go with what you were saying. Yeah, good answer.
Okay, can we get, sorry, I need that clearer.
Yeah.
Didn't get that
Yes.
either.
You have how many traits are under +6?
There's 7.
7. So you know that they are at effect. They might be trying, but they're at effect. They have a few that are in the thriving, but 7 are below +6.
So the +6 is the dictator, not the -19.
So, oops, sorry, coming back. Okay, let's show, that's a really good question. Let me get it on the screen so that hopefully it will help clarify.
I think
So-
that's what I was trying to explain, but I got it mixed up. So it was the majority were under the +6, but 5 of those are in the -19. That it seemed like that would have more influence.
So let me try so if you have anything, let me try it this way. Let's do this. Can I? Okay, let's try this. So many ways. Okay, so let's look at it like this. This might help it out a little more. And let me see if I can change the gradient so that we could see it better. I do this. Okay. Oops. So anything, now we want it all the way up to +6. So what you're seeing, and please let me know if you understand this, this is not the same graph, but on the graph that we are looking at, there are 7 traits under +6. So that means that they are not thriving. They are not, that this person is at effect. Because 7 traits are below +6. A couple of them, a couple of them are above +6. Most of them are below -19. So I would say, especially since they're pretty darn low, looking at the scale of traits would help me decide even more to see how many are very low, to see how far down into at effect or succumb this person is. Does that make sense? Does everybody get that?
Mhm.
And
I have a question about, which number do you go to first? The +6 to see how many are at effect? I mean, to see how many are below it to know if they're more at effect? Is that, do you go first to +6 or first to +19?
Well,
-19.
on every, if I understand your question, the way my mind takes that question is every graph is different. So I think personally, I go to -19. I just look, where's the lowest? Like on this one, first I see like right to my eyes, there's more under -19. But then I would look at the G and the I at the -9 and the -10 and say that, well, you know, they're included too. So it just bumps it up a little. I look at every graph differently. I just glance. It doesn't take me long to see. Sometimes it takes me a little while to figure it out. And Heather mentioned yesterday, or I think Helen, you might have mentioned yesterday, do you ever add them up and average it to figure out, oh, that's for being, doing, and having. Going
Yeah,
back
so
to,
I guess the point is that it doesn't really matter whether you pick +6 to see how many are under that or +19, that difference between -19 and 6 is still not thriving.
yeah, exactly. I guess a good way to make it simple is to just look at +6 first.
Mhm.
There's very few, if any, times that I've seen a whole bunch of traits between -19 and +6. So it may be easiest just to look at +6 first and see if there's anything in that realm between -19 and +6. But it's very easy to see what's below -19.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Everybody got that?
Mhm.
Okay, what else do we, so we know that this person in general in life, the day that they took this assessment, they're having a hard time right now. What else do we know?
They've probably got a present time problem.
How do you know that?
Low C and low H.
That's right. They don't got no cheese.
Mhm.
Helen, they got no cheese. Okay. So it could literally take you 5 minutes to do this as you get used to it. It literally, I mean, it probably takes like 3 minutes and it's like, oh, okay, being, doing, having, breakthrough point, compensator point, oh, thriving, not thriving, okay. Compulsions, okay, you know, and like I say, what I do with compulsions, so I'm sorry, but this is not going to be very beautiful, but pretend this trait goes all the way up to here and is a compulsion, just pretend. I would just, and I don't have my handy dandy ruler out. This is, that's how I mark it. That's my mark. You make your own, everybody makes their own, but that works for me. How I can tell when something's a compulsion. I can see how many they are and how high it is. I just color it in. Okay. You guys have that worksheet, and that's a handy dandy worksheet for, I mean, you know, you'll find your own way. I mean, I can pull out all my graphs. It's either beautiful. Sometimes it's so beautiful with my ruler. Sometimes I use different colors. Sometimes I'm in a hurry and I do it fast like this. It doesn't matter. I still get the information. Some people really appreciate that worksheet.
You give them that worksheet with your lines?
Oh, no, the client, that is for you. This is for you for plant. This gives you in 5 minutes
Yeah,
information about who right away in 5 minutes, you know, their breakthrough point, their compensator, their compulsions, you know, if they're thriving or succumbing, you know, if that, you know, right away in 5 minutes, you know so much about them. And if you're not sure, all you have to do.
Did you still go back to your template after?
I don't understand the question.
The template we, that to do our evaluations before this course.
Always. I always use that. And we're going to get to that.
Okay.
I always do that for several reasons, but we'll get to that soon. Good question. There's also this handy dandy. This is especially helpful if you have teams. Especially helpful if you have teams. For me, I'm a visual. So this is enough. Unless I have a team, obviously, then I have to use the worksheet. But for some people, this may be better for them, this worksheet. Maybe the visual is confusing, and to have it all written down, how many are above 32, how many are between 32 and 6. That's, the B and the H. Is there a social mask?
Susanna, it says page 31 on where I see you, but my page 31 is different in the week 1 manual.
Oh,
It's on page 30 in our manual, and it's
But that's not the same as she has right here.
You're right, because I'm in the leader's guide, and I'm not in your guide, which is
Okay.
like really making it hard. But you guys have it.
Oh, the
Page
one on
30.
page 30 then.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was seeing differences between the one
Yeah.
you were showing us just then.
And I'm glad, because I was seeing master. Okay, this is the one. I was saying, wait a minute, that's a mistake. I made a mistake, but in yours, I fixed it. So now it's all. But anyway, these are the 7 steps. And you could have it on a sheet. And so really it's up to you, what works best for you. It doesn't matter. And like I said, you don't have to follow this order, but you do want to do the 7 steps.
Mhm.
Oh, you're not seeing what I'm looking at, are you? Sharon, let me give you.
I have a question, because you had said something about people appreciate, and then Diane said we show them that, and then I got confused of what form is it that people appreciate seeing? This one? Because you're saying we don't share the chart. So which form are you saying they appreciate?
I think I'm sorry. Okay, we'll do one thing at a time, because I have it up, so I should be able to see it, and I want you to see it. Okay.
Heather, I think what Susanna was saying was, for us, some people prefer the visual, and some people prefer the following the worksheet down. So
Okay, got it. So for practitioners, not clients.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for clarifying.
Yeah, and okay, so
I'm sure this is somewhere, but if anyone knows the answer to this, the cause and effect, where does that come out in the steps to evaluating? Oh, I guess that comes under trait. Oh, I found it. It's okay. I found it.
great. Okay, I think I finally found it. Okay, here's yours. This is the one you see, and it is correct with all we've been doing. So this is the one you see, and you can use it if you want. And yeah, just like Jenny said, for some people, the way that their mind works, it's easier having it on a worksheet. For some people, it's easier having it, on a piece of paper visually. For some people, doing both. The worksheet that you see in front of you right now definitely is needed if you have teams, like if you have 10 or 20 or 4 people on a team, and you're working with breakthrough with the personality assessment, and all 4 people have taken it, or 10 or whatever. This you can compile. How many people have potential immediate problems? Is it PSI? I mean, wouldn't it be interesting if you're hired to help a team and all 4 people have PSI? Is there a problem in leadership? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I want your guidance. Do you want more information now where we sit around, we talk more with information, or would you like to do another inquiry and get started on this week's homework and go into pairs and do another inquiry? I'm just trying to see where your brains are at.
Unknown caller.
So the question is, do you want more content or a breakout room working together, doing an inquiry that will be part of the homework so you could get started on it?
I would say probably a little bit more information to kind of help solidify it a little bit more.
Okay, more content. Does people liking that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I had planned to do otherwise, but I just had a feeling like, yeah, Heather, oh, you'd prefer breakout room.
Me too.
Oh, Helen, Moses, pairs. Okay, so I need to see, keep your hands up. I need to see your hands up, so don't go up and down. For people who would like more content, please give me a thumbs up. Let me see how many. Helen, Tim, Diane, Margarita. 4 people want more content. How many people would like to, are full of content and want breakout room? And keep your hands up. Heather, Helen. So that's 6, but we have more people here.
I don't care.
Okay. So is there anyone else that needs a breakout room right now? Okay, we'll go with content, and Heather and Helen, I hear you're full. So I will take that. I will work with that to make it easier for you in the best way that I possibly can. Let's see, what do I want to do? Okay. I'm being creative, so give me a minute to create this. And Jenny, I might need your help. Okay, Jenny, I'm going to make up an inquiry, and you're just going to make up any answers. And I'm going to respond to you.
Okay.
So mostly all you have to do is be client. And I just have to find any inquiry in the whole entire planet. And you can play with it.
Yes, sorry, I sent out the invite. Ignore for the rooms. I pressed the wrong button, Helen. So just just ignore them. I hoped I was quick enough before people realised.
So I'm just playing with a stupid inquiry. It has nothing to do with what we're doing. But Jenny, I want you to verbally answer as if it wasn't even an inquiry, as if it's a client session, and just give 1 or 2 sentences or 3 at the most.
Got it.
So that this will all make sense in a minute. Remember, I'm giving puzzle pieces and then it all comes together. All right, so I know that surprised you, Jenny. All of a sudden you're seeing yourself. Now we're seeing each other. So shifting into coach and client mode. Okay. Jenny, can you think of something that someone has done to you?
Yeah, I fell out with somebody at work and they made me feel really bad.
Good, got it. Thank you. Can you think of something that you have done to someone?
Yeah, I've fallen out with people at work before.
Good.
Possibly made them feel bad.
Okay. Thank you. Got it. Can you think of something someone has done to others? While Jenny's thinking, I want to remind you, this is not any planned inquiry. You're just watching the exchange of us. The words I'm saying, don't pay any attention. Coming back to Jenny.
Yeah, it sort of it makes me think of when I'm watching the news and you're seeing, what's going on in the world. So what Russia's doing to Ukraine.
I get it. Thank you. Can you think of something you have done to yourself?
Yeah, that's easy, isn't it? I've given myself a hard time over the years.
I get it. Thank you. Okay, we're taking a time out. Sidebar. We're going to do the same thing over again. I'm going to try to repeat the same words I'll probably forget, but I want to do it again in a different way. Okay, back to coach and client. Jenny, can you think of something someone has done to you?
Yeah, I've fallen out with somebody fell out with me at work and made me feel really bad.
I know exactly what you're talking about. That's terrible. What was that like for you?
Oh yeah, it was rubbish. It's I didn't want to go back into work again after that.
I hate when that happens. I just, and I'm sorry to hear that happened to you, but we're going to work on that. So can you think of something you have done to someone?
I've fallen out with people as well in the past.
Okay, that's too bad. Must have been hard for you.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, really hard.
I know it's really hard for people when they fall out with people in the past. And a lot of clients come to me for that very reason. And, I really think that it also is something that we could really work on here, and it's going to be okay. We have things. So I just want to give you a safe space.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So think of something you have done to somebody. And I'm pausing for a second. Remember, these words don't make any sense. This is not a typical client session. I wouldn't use this order in any way. It doesn't make any sense. That's all jumbled. What you're looking at is just the back and forth and experiencing the difference between the two versions. Okay.
So something that I've done to somebody.
Yeah.
I've made a friend feel uncomfortable.
You did.
Well,
tell me more about that.
We just had a silly disagreement, and I wasn't very kind with the way that I responded to her, and it got personal rather than just around the issue. Yeah.
And that can really affect things at work, I think. I've seen that before, hasn't it? Hasn't it been that way before? So I understand what that looks like. And so I'm just curious, think of something you've done to others. Can you tell me about that? Something you've done to others?
Something I've done to others. I've made somebody feel uncomfortable by being too honest instead of sort of, being a little bit more gentle.
And how did that make you feel when you did that?
It was in the heat of the moment, so it didn't really, it wasn't until afterwards that I felt bad about it.
Yeah, I get that. So, okay, and I'm going to pause. And we're refreshing. We're starting again. I'm going back to the first version. So Jenny, can you think of something someone has done to you?
Somebody has, a relative lied to me. They told me a lie.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Can you think of something you have done to someone?
I have, what have I done to somebody else? Yeah, I've probably not been very kind to somebody, to a friend.
I got it. Thank you. Can you think of something someone has done to others?
Someone has done to others. Yeah, when you see things in the news about what's going on in the world. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I get it. Thank you. And can you think of something you've done to yourself because of another?
Yeah, I've not trusted myself in the past.
Oh, I get that. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, clear screen, clear scene, clear. What did you notice? Heather.
That I'm changing my approach with my clients. Thank you. As much as the middle one I felt was an attempt at building rapport and creating relatability, it actually seemed unprofessional. And I totally do that all the time. I want people to get that I get them, but it was so about me and bragging almost. That's how it seemed, like you're trying to like sell yourself. Crazy that I had more trust and faith in your capability when you were just saying, thank you. Crazy. Thank you. Thank you. Wow.
Got it. Thank you. Helen.
I felt like in the middle one that it allowed Jenny to be more of a victim. It was like you were embracing her victimhood.
Wow, interesting. Thank you.
And even though it was only an exercise, it felt like that as well. It really sucked me in. I almost wanted to say to Susanna, oh, you can help me fix my problem then, can you? Yeah.
That's amazing. It's interesting to hear all this. Margarita.
I want to thank you, Susanna, because I saw myself in the first one, like when you were going, oh, I understand that. And it happened to me too. And and it's like, you know what? You have to step out. Like you just can't do that. So thank you for that. I really saw like how it looks. And it's like, you're even making the person even, not you, I would make my clients like really panic and what's going on and what are you talking about? Like, I'm here for me and you're talking about yourself too. Like, thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
How to present myself. Yeah.
And it's Margarita, you know how to do this. Helen.
In the middle one, you were also adding your own opinions and seeing through your own filters, and which might not necessarily have been the client's interpretation, but in a sense you were influencing them.
Thank you. Good, thank you. Tim.
So I kind of saw more of the first one of what is more practiced in a medical aspect, where you're trying to obtain the information and you're wanting to know what is it that they're actually talking about, but you're still asking the questions that you're needing so that you can move on and develop what it is that is being actually stated, but you're not putting yourself in it. But the middle one, without a question, is almost, from a medical standpoint, a no-no. Because when you're, first and foremost, when you're talking about patient, we're saying, or interchangeable client. But the thing is, with a patient being sick, or they're having a tube in them or a line or something of that nature, they're concerned about, what about me? So the most important thing is not to inject your own opinion or your own part of who you are when they're trying to find out, well, how can you help me? Because that's the main objective. How do you help me? What about me? What's going on with me? And what can you do about it? So it just kind of resonated that the first one, I kind of, picked up, but the second one, I was trying to get a idea of, well, where are we trying to go with this? But now that I see that you were giving us examples, it's like, oh, okay, I got you.
Excellent. And first of all, thank you from our medical professional on our team here to give us that professional point of view from a medical practitioner. My brain is trying to remember where I'm leading with that, because I feel like, in a way, as coaches, like a medical practitioner, you're really looking for the clear, precise information, unadulterated. And so thank you for that. And also interesting, just want to remind you, looping back to the beginning of the day when you said, I went into the space and my mind had 1,000 questions. And so now, knowing that there's a way to get out of that there's more information to fill in the gaps. There's still more puzzle pieces here, but part of that, when your mind has 1,000 questions, it's being present. That's presence we're building. And then if there is a response, often the response is, thank you, I get it. Good. Thank you, everybody. Suzanne.
In agreement with everything people have said, and I've often talked about, I actually wrote about it in my book, is about sometimes when we're over empathetic, it ends up being about us and not them. And we have to be very cautious with empathy. And the society really says, be more empathetic. Yes, but at the same time, when you're verbalizing it, it ends up being about you. And it started to go that way. But the other thing that really struck me is, from a mental health standpoint, if you are an empathetic and compassionate person, which most of us probably are, we wouldn't be even in this course, you can take on the energy of the other person. And that can be very dangerous, to take on people's energy. The second time, that's what I felt you were doing. You were taking on the energy of the other person, and you weren't separating yourself from that energy. And that could create all kinds of mental health issues in the practitioner that would be exhausting and not, well, mental health issues. So that's a cautionary. That's what I took away from it.
Thank you. Excellent points, everybody. Excellent. That's a very good point. Yeah, all of these are excellent points of consideration. Go ahead, Tim, and then Heather.
Just real quick, just to kind of coattail to Suzanne.
And then we're going to move on.
Yes. But real quick, you're absolutely right, Susanna, because when you're dealing with, and again, from a medical perspective, the one thing that and again, if it's a nurse, it's a doctor, it doesn't really matter. The most important aspect about the emotion of the empathy is you're going to show the empathy by what you're doing, but you're not going to take in the energy of the empathy of their problem, simply because if you get emotional, then that's where mistakes come in, because you're not thinking about what you have to do. You're thinking more about how do they feel about what you're doing. So you do know that sometimes it's a little tough love, but you don't want to get into but if I'm doing this, I don't want them to hate me or dislike me or feel this way, or if I tell them this or that creates too many mistakes. So you have to put that to the side and actually go more objectively about what it is that you're trying to do while listening subjectively to what their issues are.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Heather, and then Helen, and then we'll move on.
As I was listening and considering the feedback that I gave, I started to notice that they were actually in the bookmark, right, or the bookends. They were both very different also. The first one was much more clinical. The middle one was the one that kind of got exaggerated. And then the last one was the clinical, but with acknowledgement. And that, when I started to think about it, the middle one felt unprofessional. It almost felt like teenagey. The end one, though, did have more to it. And that was the one that I felt that's what I've been trying to achieve as a coach. It's important to validate someone. And you said something earlier today that I wrote down the way you phrased it, the truth in someone's perception, right? Validating the truth of their perception. So the first one to me was too stoic and cold and just like, what? Okay, next. The middle one was like kind of all over the place. But that last one with saying the validating them, to me was that was the difference between the three. And I felt like that is also an important quality of not engaging, not, drawing up the victim, but also acknowledging their experience was real for them.
Beautiful. Thank you. That is very informative. And we're going to go back to a number of things that you said in the next segment. Helen.
And so, adding to the comments and particularly with a focus on mental health, I worked as a mental health practitioner for a number of years, and quite often people felt that we could fix them. And I think the middle one, when you were talking about we can work on that and we can do this, it's very disempowering to the clients, because it's almost as if we can do it together, but you don't have the ability to do this on your own. So it's very much other determined, not self-determined.
And can you go into just a teeny bit more detail about the last two lines you said? You said you, meaning me, don't have the ability to fix someone.
No. The clients can sometimes have the impression that somebody else can fix them, and it's not something they can do. They don't have that ability, they don't have the insight, they don't have the self-knowledge and the self-determination.
They think that. The client thinks that.
Yeah.
But,
they can think that. Not necessarily everybody, but
right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Diane, and then we are, Diane, and then we are moving on.
Okay. When you say got it kind of in just those two small words, you basically say everything that you said in the second video without saying it. Because, in sales, they say, if they know that you understand their problem, then they think you have the solution for them. Right? So you don't have to go through. That was very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So you all brought up some really key things of where we're going. It's like I must have sent you emails and told you what to say, because you just teed it all up. But hopefully I can remember what you all said. First thing, as the coach, doing the second one was so hard. It was really, really, really hard. And I think that it is what it is like when you're trying to think of what to do as a coach. It's like they're saying something and it's like, what's my next step? What am I supposed to do next? What's the protocol? What's the this? And it's like, am I connecting with her? Am I not connecting with her? It was so hard to do that and very uncomfortable, and takes us back to the difference between the master and the practitioner. The practitioner, when we go in the rooms and we say you're being practitioner, now I am not equating a parallel. It's a different connection. In this moment, I'm distinguishing what masters are. But a master, like many of you said, is present with the person in a way that they can see the mirror of themselves better, where they're the one that is getting awareness rather than the practitioner being the one that's supposed to give them the awareness. So that goes to you guys that said it's like you were trying to fix her. And that term fix them came up earlier today. And in the fixing, it takes me into the thinking and not in the knowing. In the trying to fix and figuring out how to be with, how to build rapport, how to create a safe space, how to lead to realizations and create a good, positive, have a successful coaching session. I am in the thinking mind, and I'm not holding that space, that nurturing, safe space for the client. And as you have shared, you found that providing that safe space, even when your eyes were closed and your mouth was shut, you were the ones that came back and said that as a client, you found that you felt a safe space, that a person, you could relax. And as the master practitioner, many had the sense that they were really connecting just by holding space. May not be exactly your words, but I think that I think you get the gist, hopefully, of what I'm saying. So the truth, remember that truth we talked about, truth is the original, it's not the lie. And that's the only truth there is in that person. It's in the client. It can never be in the coach. Because as Heather was saying, again, going back to truth and perception, we each have our different models of the world. I like things visual. Some people have trouble with numbers. Some people would rather have a chart. It doesn't matter. The truth is in that person. And so we are holding space that they find their truth. And it's okay if it's not our truth, as long as you see that they're thriving more, that they see that original, like, that's what I'm supposed to do. That's who I am. That's how I want to act. That's me having ownership. So you're looking for when they light up and when you see they got it. And you're holding that space. And so the responsibility for change, we want to ask, whose responsibility? Where is the responsibility for change in our sessions? I'm just going to put that out there for a minute. Kind of just leave that hanging there. Whose responsibility? I mean, we're the coach. They're coming to us for transformation. Whose responsibility is it for change? Just put that out there. But in the meantime, I want to tell you that what we're calling what we do is, in communication, we form a loop. We ask a question, the client answers, and we say, good, got it, thank you. And it's not those words, it's not robotic. I mean, I was trying to find other words. I'm used to saying, good, got it, thank you. But Patrick might say, brilliant, great, thank you. You could say, I understand. And there may be times where I understand is a better answer. But basically, you acknowledge, I got it. And then you thank them. Thank you.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Suzanne.
Just on that point, so I don't lose it. That's the one thing I also noticed, though. Brilliant or good, like I did with respect, Suzanne, at one point she said a problem and you said, oh, that's good. And I went, well, no, it's not good. So I like understand as a word, because that's what they're seeking out, is to be understood. The other validates. Like when you say brilliant or good, I see that as more like you're validating something, where understand is you're acknowledging that you understand what's being said. So
And
I like that.
Again, a great distinction. I made up this exercise on the fly, so I wasn't prepared. So in both and this isn't an apology, it's an explanation. What Heather said about the difference between the first and the third was the first one, I don't think I got to the thank you. I wasn't as present because I was trying to figure out, where am I going from here? I had no idea what I was doing. So I'm like, what's my next question? So I was trying to figure it out. By the time I did it the third time, I could be more of who I would naturally be. And Suzanne, you're absolutely right. And it's probably because I was, halfway like going, what's my next question?
Oh,
that
Suzanne,
I didn't
please. This was actually just more about the brilliant and understand. It was really my only observation that when we use goods, brilliance, that's a validation, and understand is that you receive the message. I see those differently, less about a critique on what you did.
And I didn't take it as that.
Good.
My
I didn't intend it.
intention here is that you're absolutely right in what you were saying. And if I had been fully present with my client and not trying to figure out how to do this, I hopefully would not have said good if she brought out something that wasn't. And I would have said a more appropriate answer. So the distinction is, you can say, sometimes somebody gets an insight. And so good is an appropriate distinction to say good. And if somebody gets it was really, really hard for me, good would not. This is a really good, I like these finessing distinctions, because we're not becoming robots that only say good, great, thank you. We're really present with the person. So we're coming up with the appropriate response, and it can even be different words for you guys, but the simple words are like when it is, validating something positive that happens, saying something good, got it, thank you, or got it, thank you, or I understand, thank you. What's most important is that one, it's acknowledged. What Suzanne says is important. It's appropriately acknowledged, so that they hear you. Like if Jenny and I were in a real session and she said, I just had my knees cut off and I went to the hospital, I said, good, thank you. That would break rapport. So it is the appropriate, but typical answers could be good, thank you, got it, thank you. I understand, thank you. And so we want to be authentic in the response. And we want to validate and thank. So the loop of the conversation is, we ask a question, we wait for the response, we validate, and say thank you. That concludes that loop. Then we move on to the next question and start again. Respond, thank you, got it. And so this is the style of communication that builds self-determination. Because then the client is seeing themselves, hearing themselves, has a platform to have a sounding board that is clean and clear and safe. I'm very authentic because you authentically are there saying, I understand. Thank you. It just closes. It's like at the end of a sentence, there's a period. And then the new sentence begins. So that's a metaphor for a location, communication loop. Is everybody with me? And I can't see all hands. So Jenny, tell me if everybody's with me. I can't hear you, Jenny, but I assume I'd know if I wasn't. And Heather says, agree with Suzanne, neutral words are more positive. Positive and negative words can feel like an opinion. That's true. And I want to take you back to when Heather said something. Heather was talking about her D trait and her A, B, and C trait. And she had an insight about that and their relationship and how it reflected who she was. And I was excited. And out of my mouth came the words, perfect. And then you might have heard me kind of recoil and say, oh my God, I didn't mean to say that. Because it was not a neutral word. And yet I also wanted to reinforce, acknowledge what she had, but it was like, oh, no. And so this takes us to something called jusping. And what we try to do is have no jusping. And so, Jenny, if as I say it, if you could put it also in the chat. JUSP stands for judgment. E stands for evaluation. S stands for significances. P stands for preferences. And sometimes I get S's mixed up with something else. And because it's late in the day and my brain is tired, Jenny and Helen Jane, it's significances, right? It's not, okay, thanks. Because I know I mix it up with something else sometimes. Okay, so it's judgment, evaluation, significances, or preferences. Although in the UK, it's preferences. But either way, it's the same word.
There's no spell check.
Yeah. So believe me, I've been hit with that a million times myself. So it's no jusping, no judgments, no evaluations, no significances, no preferences. And so that's essentially what both Suzanne and Heather are pointing out. What when we reply to somebody in the rooms, we are keeping ourselves out of it. You know, they may say, wow, that was really cool. I really, that intervention really worked. And the person will be like, you know, I agree. That was what you did was so awesome. That was great. And you know what I noticed when we were in the middle of that intervention, when you went like this and you did that, that was so cool. And it's our coaches that are excited for the people in the breakout rooms and probably in their own lives with their clients. But that excitement is jusping. And what it does is the client, the person in that breakout room has just had this amazing intervention, and the neurons and the synapses are connecting and starting to anchor. And that one insight might lead to the next or the next or the next, and it's growing. It's like a pebble in water and it's expanding. And then if the coach says, you did so great. You know, when I saw when you did it, oh my God, it was really, really good. I love that. Did you hear me when I said this? And did you know, all of a sudden it's breaking those neuron connections. So, you know, obviously it's easy to understand the should judgments. You should this and you should that. And, you know, you're in the breakout rooms with it's each other. We're each other's clients. We're as valid as your clients in your own world. These are vulnerable, fragile people. And if you're like, you know, I think you should have blah, blah, blah. You know, it's taking their perception of truth and telling them they don't have the focus or the mindset or the, you know, that it's making them start to judge themselves, even though you're doing it from a spirit of helping. In the world, we're taught to help, and we think we should help, and we think we should fix. But it actually isn't. It isn't providing self-determination. So even if it's preferences, and this one I don't see as much as the other ones where we do preferences, but I think it does come up in a more subtle form. Like, and I don't know, Jenny, do you have a better explanation of, I know I've seen it, but I don't see it very often. Is there a way to describe preferences as a coach towards a client that would make sense for no jusping? Oh, and I skipped significances. So we'll get back to significances. That one's easy, but go ahead.
How would you describe preferences?
No preferences. Okay, thank you. You are so, I love you so much. You're so no preferences. Let me do significances first. So it's like, you know, it's saying one thing is better than another and what a client did. Both of what you did just now in that session, in that intervention, my dear client, were really good. But I really thought when you got to that second insight, it was better than the first. Or, you know, somebody, your client has a really big epiphany and they come up with something and you have an idea about it and you say, and they've just had their insight, they've just had their win. And then you have to add, you know what else? Just what you said, but even better. Can you picture it? Even if it's like this, wouldn't that be even better? So it's adding your significance to it. And again, those neurons are coalescing and anchoring, and you've just taken the person out of their win. The win is still there, but it's liquefied. So preferences. Heather, are you helping me with agenda? Wait, can I use the word agenda with preferences? I'm looking for your face.
Yeah, I thought that made sense. Like opinions and like your own thought of what it should be, could be, what's ideal.
Yeah, I think that's thank you. That's a really good help, because it might be in a session and you're going in a certain direction and the client is, can we do this? And you're like, well, I'd prefer if we do this first. Is that okay with you? So, you know, something like that. We can keep our eyes out. It happens. It's just a little subtler, but it does happen. So no jusping is the no shoulding, the no, you know, it's not having to create your worth by having to show that you're great at what you do. No, go ahead, Susanna.
No, this is sort of partially more personal. Well, it is more personal, but just when you were saying is stepping on someone's win is for me very powerful, because I've noticed something personal that's going on, and particularly when I'm in mastermind groups, where I've come up with some great ideas and then someone does exactly what you said. This would make that better. And all of a sudden, physically, I'm like this, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, they don't think I had a good idea. So I've felt that. So that just anchors it in my mind how problematic that can be as a coach to not allow someone to experience their own resolve.
And in alter spiritual, thank you. I understand exactly what you're saying, and thank you. And for those in alter spiritual, there have been many times where our practitioners, after holding space, and sometimes you're holding space so long, only saying, got it, I understand, thank you, over and over and over and over again. And at the end, the person got the win. And I love the words that Suzanne said. And then the practitioner steps on the win to have to add their point of view. And then it's like, so I say that to my alter spiritual technology practitioners to remember that even at the conclusion of a whole long inquiry, you're still holding space for that win. Thank you. Got it. Low being personality probably has the most challenging time not just being. Possibly, we'll have to, we'll all have to look and see where we land with that. So that is something really important, no jesping. And you can be sure that if somebody was putting together a test, jesping would be on the test. Oh, but I didn't say that. Speaking of the test, and speaking of transparency, I just want to let you know that last week, Patrick went in for having a couple stents put in his heart, and he's fine, and he's recovering. And so that has put extra, while he's recovering, there's a lot on my plate right now. And I had promised to give you the open book test today, but I don't think I'm going to get it out until Friday. And I do apologize. And I do want to say that Patrick is doing really well, but he's recovering. So I appreciate your patience with that. And I know you guys are going to do great on the test. For those who've been in the Growth IQ programs, you know that the tests, and I've said this before, it's about learning and retention. I mean, we do want to assess, make sure that you are taking in the content and understanding it. But the practice of the test is really continuation of the course to learn and retain the knowledge. And it's an exercise for you to embed it more in you. So it's not something to be nervous about. It's something that is to be interested and enthusiastic, high on the harmonic scale about, because it is intended to reinforce what you're learning. And so now, I think unless anyone has any questions, it'd be a good time to move into our time of takeaways. Been a great day being with you guys. So we did a lot today. You guys were moving it, rocking and rolling. Go ahead, Diane.
I think thank you for the coaching client exercise. I think it was really helpful for everyone. I don't want to take anybody's time, and I have to log off like in a few minutes. But what I missed this morning is, can you tell me where to go? Is it like in the first section? Did you do the
so you and I can have a sidebar about this?
Okay, excellent, thank you.
And
yeah.
Also, I'm going to send out the video of it. And I believe you set yourself up with somebody here to do the breakout room exercises.
Yeah, I think I did. Said she might be able to help me, but I'll reach out to her.
Who was going to help you?
It's like, well,
I asked about the time zone.
Yes, Ardit. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
we can arrange that, yes.
Okay, we'll be on Instagram, on the Telegram.
Yes.
Okay, great. Good. So you're covered. We got you covered, Diane.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to put on some takeaway music. If anyone has any suggestions of what I put on, let me know. Otherwise, I'll pick something. I'm going to turn down my sound so that the music sound can go on without it being echo.
Susanna, in the future, I can show you how to do that in the back end so that you don't have the echo and it actually comes through Zoom.
I'm game.
Okay.
Okay. It's like what it's going to be like when the audio is up. Since some people may need to leave right at 3 o'clock, or which is 8 o'clock London time, I want to let you know that the home play is in the chat. Home play is the work to do between sessions. We're going to send an email about this, and I'll probably create a little video as well. But you'll complete the personal transformation map on page 15. You'll partner up with somebody in the group, do the being, doing, and having inquiries on pages 31 and 32 of the training manual. And they'll be reading, starting on page 11 of the master's manual, starting in the middle of page 11, the 10 trait mix. And you're going to read to page 16, the compulsion factor. So pages 11 through 16 in the master's manual. A lot of it is a review, and some of it may add insights and reinforcement of things you didn't know. So that's going to be the home play that will be done before next Monday. Okay.
And do you pair us up or we partner with it?
You pair each other up. You can go to the Telegram group. You could reach to each other on email. The emails that Jenny and I send out are just sent directly to, so you have everybody's email addresses. You could put it in the chat right now, whatever way is easiest for you guys. And is everybody on Telegram? Does anyone still need assistance getting on Telegram? Please contact Jenny and she will assist you. Okay, are we ready for takeaways? Any questions before we go to takeaways about Telegram, about the home play? Okay.
Oh, sorry, Margarita has her hand up first.
Okay, Margarita and then Heather.
Thank you. Today was eye-opening. Thank you. And to everyone.
Keep going, Margarita.
I'm not that my intention will for the rest of this training is going to be the awareness of self, how I present myself in excellence with my sessions with my clients here. And also my intention and my quote for me will be, who do we think of as good judges? And I will tweak it, but my answer is those who agree with us about us, meaning I'm leaving the me out of it and let them just be who they are.
Good.
But it comes from my being is low. So that's what I have to work on. Thank you.
What is your are you planning on doing a task?
I don't know what that task could be. I guess maybe just.
I think earlier today you agreed to a task.
I wrote it down and typed it up somewhere in my notes.
Okay. So for those with a low being trait, the first step is to start to become aware of when you look to others for validation, when you reach out to others for an answer, when you reach out to others to do work for you, when you don't turn to yourself. So would you be willing to do that until between now and Monday and kind of report back about that task, Margarita?
Yes, I will.
And can you write that down now and then email me?
Become aware when you reach out to do work for you, and when you, I didn't phrase it proper.
You know what? You and I'll have a sidebar.
Okay.
I will go over it, but is it okay? Do you want to, and think about it, and you can come back in a minute.
I need to do it and I want to do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll stay on after and I'll go over that with you.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Heather.
You had asked if anybody had questions. So with Telegram, I really don't know that I can be present with all that in this. So, and I just wanted to talk about it because
You
and we
don't have
can-
to be.
Okay, I want to be. It's just I'm moving. I have construction, and I had to move all my work to when we're not in class. So I don't want to miss it. So
However, we could support you, and we totally support whatever you need and can do.
yeah, okay, thank
And
you.
you
I just
have
wanted to-
everyone's email addresses.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Yeah, no worry, no pressure. Okay, takeaways. Go ahead, Suzanne.
Yeah, I'll dive in. Today was great. I mean, there's been a lot of good takeaways. So the ones I'm actually going to share, though, are the ones that are very personal to me that really had nothing to do with what we talked about, but I translated it to other areas of my life. So one of them is when we were doing the second 15-minute session, for some reason, I had 6 minutes left on my timer. And I realized that I was going somewhere very interesting prospectively and diving in. And then I got pulled out of it because we had to come out, and we looked at the time and I said, there's 6 minutes left. What happened? How did we mess this up? So how important that is for somebody to give them the space. That's where I took away from it. It's actually giving people the space to explore. And then it was reinforced at the end of the day because I actually lived it when I got cut off.
Yeah.
So that was a big takeaway. Another big takeaway is I'm going to be hosting a membership site. And in order to be present, is actually, I don't know if I've never done this before, is actually some meditation before interacting with people so I can clear my space. I do some other things, I do mantras, but I think I need more being present. So that's another big one for me that I will take from today.
That's great.
So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Who else? Takeaways from today?
I think for me, it never fails to surprise me the power of silence and allowing that space.
Thank you.
I would probably may need a connection with the Telegram because apparently I'm having some of the more difficulty on my computer, but I was able to pull it up on my phone. But how do I connect with the group for the Telegram? I guess exchange. Is there a group name or something?
There is. Did you get the link? Did you get the link from Jenny's email?
I'll have to pull it up. Let me look for that then.
Okay, because you just click on the link, and the link will take you to the group if you have the app. Otherwise, you have to download the app first.
I think a lot of people have said that they've tried to do it on their PC and it's not worked, but it's easier to do it on your phone first and then download the app on your PC, and then it will come up automatically as the group. Was my experience.
Bye, H. Here's the link. Anyone who's still not on Telegram, that's the link to Telegram, I think. Nope, I think. Nope, I think that's the personality assessment link. Hold on, let me try. Hold on. Anyone else, while I'm figuring this out, anyone else have a takeaway.
I had a whole bunch today. And a lot of them were just reminders of things that I had forgotten or lost connection with. And one was just when we do allow ourselves the space, the different layers that we can reach. And it kind of brought me back to the first day with Jenny when I couldn't understand and I was getting frustrated with the exercise. That really today just helped to confirm, like, had I had more space, I probably could have reached different layers. And experiencing that in so many different ways of like how I see other people, how I go through stories about those people in order to let go of the stories. The compensation trait is really interesting. JESP was really like mind-blowing. Like I think when I first said like I coach that way, it's not that extreme, but extreme enough that I noticed the difference that might actually be the more powerful immediate application that I'll be applying from this training, because I can see, and I made the joke of like the low B. I really think it is. It's like, because I'm always looking for external validation, like, hey, I get you. That means we're great. You get me. And again, it's not as immature as that, but really significant. So, and then the other thing is I just want to acknowledge this training as well. When it was like cameras on all day, I'll be honest, it was like, oh God, I'm so grateful because there's no way we would be retaining as much and being as present if it wasn't for the accountability. And I just feel like it also will help to me like up level the way that I serve my clients of like, it's not about convenience. It's about how effective is it? And sometimes that's not convenient. So thank you for all of it, everybody.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well then, unless I'm missing, let me put it back on gallery view. So just checking one last time, anyone else? So then I want to thank you all for your engagement, your presence, your compassion, and the hard work you're doing. Please reward yourselves. You're working very hard and you deserve to reward yourself. This is very intense. And have a wonderful next few days. You'll get, you have the homework assignment. I'm gonna also make sure it's resent to you by email, and I will do like a little video to tell you about the things so that if anyone has any questions, it'll be clarified. So have a wonderful week. If you need any support, don't hide. Reach out to Jenny, reach out to me, reach out to the group. We're here for you. Have a wonderful week. I'm hearing all these messages. I hope I'm not missing something. If I am, let me know here, but otherwise, see you Monday.
Thank you. Thanks so much.